I wasn't planning on going. Ashley had told me about the corporate party earlier in the week, some year-end mixer at the conference center downtown. She'd mentioned it in passing like it was barely worth bringing up. Said it would be boring, just clients and coworkers and small talk. I didn't ask to come along. Lately, I stopped asking about a lot of things. But Friday rolled around, and by the time the clock struck 7, I was sitting in my car staring at the steering wheel, wondering why I had this weird pit in my stomach. Maybe it was the way she had rushed out of the house that afternoon. Her makeup had been different, heavier. She wore heels I hadn't seen in a while and that deep green dress she usually saved for special events, the kind you didn't waste on conference room chit-chat. I told myself I was overthinking it like I always did. Still, something in me pushed back. I stopped by a florist near the hotel, grabbed a white rose, her favorite, and headed to surprise her. The lobby of the center was lit up, bustling with chatter and clinking glasses. The place was bigger than I expected, 3 floors of glass and polished stone, with signs pointing to different event halls. I followed the sound of music and laughter down a wide hallway. I thought maybe I'd find her, sneak up behind her, make her laugh with something corny like, "Room for one more?" That was the plan. As I got closer to the main hall, I slowed down. The door was slightly ajar, voices spilling out. I was about to step in when I heard her laugh. Her real laugh. Not the polite one she used around my family or when talking to the neighbors. This one was deep, unfiltered, the kind I hadn't heard from her in months. Curiosity got the better of me. I paused just outside the door and listened. Someone said something I couldn't quite make out, and then I heard her, Ashley, respond. "Oh, Ryan would lose his mind if he knew about the trainer," she said, teasing. "But at least he lets me actually relax." The group burst into laughter. "Girl, you even switched your perfume," another woman added, giggling. "New scent, new Ashley?" More laughter. My heart dropped. I don't even know how long I stood there, staring at the crack in the doorway like it might somehow change the meaning of what I heard. My hands felt suddenly cold, like I wasn't quite in my body anymore. Trainer? Relax? New perfume? Ashley wasn't the flirty type. At least, not in public. Not with coworkers. But the way she spoke, it was too easy. Like she'd said it before. Like this was part of a long-running joke I was never meant to hear. I finally pushed open the door. No dramatic entrance, just a slow walk into the room like I'd always been invited. The room was full, dozens of people in business casual, standing in circles with drinks in hand. Ashley was near the center, standing between 2 guys I vaguely recognized from a company dinner. She was mid-laugh when she saw me. Her expression froze for just a split second. 1 heartbeat. Her shoulders tightened and her smile faltered, but only for a moment. Then she shifted. Like an actress stepping into character. "Ryan," she beamed, stepping forward like nothing was out of the ordinary. "You came." She leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. Her perfume hit me different. Floral, stronger. Not the soft vanilla scent I'd gotten used to over the years. "I thought you said this was just a client thing," I said, smiling faintly, trying not to look as cracked as I felt. "I did," she said quickly, linking her arm through mine like we'd always been fine. "But I figured you'd be bored, babe. It's all marketing talk and awkward dancing." "Not from what I heard," I said before I could stop myself. Her body stiffened just slightly. "What do you mean?" I looked around at her group. One of the women, the same one who'd mentioned her perfume, I assumed, looked down into her drink. One of the men offered me a polite nod. Everyone suddenly had something fascinating to look at on the ceiling or floor. "You were saying something about a trainer?" Ashley let out a laugh, forced. "Oh my God, that was just girl talk. You know, office jokes. We were just being stupid." "Sounded funny," I replied, voice even. Must have missed the punchline. She gave me a look then. Just a flicker. Half apology, half warning. A silent, practiced kind of glance that said, "Don't do this here." I didn't. I smiled and handed her the rose. Her eyes widened like she'd forgotten what it meant to be surprised by me. "You brought this. I thought it might make you smile." She took it, smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You're sweet," she murmured, turning to show her coworkers. "Isn't he sweet?" They nodded, murmured something supportive. Then conversation resumed, awkward and patched together. I stayed by her side for a few minutes, smiling through introductions I didn't want to make, sipping a glass of flat champagne someone handed me. I tried to act normal. I really did. But I couldn't stop thinking about the way she laughed. How it came so easily around them, how comfortable she looked. How different she sounded. I kept watching her when she thought I wasn't. Noticing the way she leaned just slightly toward a tall guy in a navy blazer when he spoke. The casual way she touched his arm when she joked. She used to do that with me. At one point, I excused myself, said I needed the restroom. I walked past the bar, past the elevator, and found a quiet hallway where I could just breathe. My reflection in the window looked strange, tight shoulders, jaw clenched, eyes I barely recognized. I thought about walking back in and pretending everything was fine. That was my instinct, always had been. To believe her. To trust that I was being paranoid. But something about tonight broke through that. Because tonight, I hadn't gone digging. I hadn't checked her phone. I hadn't asked her where she was or who she was with. I had just showed up. And still, I found something. When I walked back into the room a few minutes later, Ashley was dancing. She looked beautiful. Effortless. She hadn't even noticed I was gone. That hurt more than anything else. I didn't stay long after that. Just long enough for her to glance my way and realize I'd gotten quiet. She tried to joke with me on the way out, saying I looked like I needed a drink. I forced a smile. Told her I was just tired. We rode home in silence. She scrolled through her phone the entire drive, laughing at a message once, then quickly locking the screen when she noticed me glance her way. When we got home, she kissed me goodnight, said, "Thanks for coming," like it had been a normal evening. I said nothing. Just nodded. But inside, something had already cracked. Not all at once. Not with screaming or accusations. But like a hairline fracture in glass, quiet, precise, and irreversible. That night, I didn't go home. Ashley had walked into the house without a second glance, humming to herself as she disappeared into the bedroom, already peeling off her heels. She didn't ask if I wanted to talk. Didn't ask why I was so quiet. She just assumed everything was fine, or maybe she didn't care if it wasn't. I stood in the entryway for a long time, keys still in my hand, jacket slung over my arm. I looked around at the house we had spent years building together. The wedding photo on the wall. The plant she always forgot to water. My coffee mug on the kitchen counter with her lipstick smudge still on it from the morning. It all felt hollow. I turned around, walked back out the door, and booked a hotel downtown. I told myself I just needed space. Just a night to think. But the truth was I didn't want to sleep next to her. Not with the sound of that laugh echoing in my head. Not with the image of her brushing someone else's arm, giggling about some trainer while the people around her played along. Alone in the hotel room, I lay in the dark staring at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come. Instead, my mind played back months, pieces of moments I had ignored, things I had shrugged off as harmless. There had been signs. I just hadn't wanted to see them. It started small. She began working out more, which I encouraged. Said she wanted to feel stronger, more energized. At first, it felt like a good thing. But then the workouts became daily. Then twice a day. Then she was too tired to eat dinner with me, too busy to talk about her day. Then came the phone. Her phone, which used to sit charging on the kitchen counter while we watched TV, was suddenly always with her clutched in her hand, face down on the table. I'd catch her swiping out of apps when I walked into the room, saying she was just answering emails. Sometimes she'd laugh at a message and then look up at me with guilt in her eyes, as if she forgot I was in the room. I remember one Saturday, maybe a month ago. We were supposed to have brunch with my sister and her fiancé. Ashley bailed last minute, said she had an emergency client call. She left in such a rush she forgot her laptop. 2 hours later, I passed her gym on my way back from brunch. Her car was parked outside. I slowed down, stared at it for a full minute. I told myself maybe she just stopped by to work out after the call. Maybe she needed to clear her head. I never asked her about it. Then there was the sweater. I had borrowed her car while mine was in the shop. It smelled different, something spicy, musky. Not her scent. On the passenger seat was a gray zip-up hoodie. It wasn't hers. I checked the tag, Brendan. The name was stitched in cursive on the inside. When I asked her, she laughed, too loud, too fast. "Oh, that's probably one of my clients. I let a girl borrow the car last week when her Uber bailed. Must have left it there. I'll return it." She never mentioned it again. I never saw the hoodie again either. Then came the photos. Not new ones, but the old ones. Ours. One day, I went to tag her in a photo from our anniversary dinner and realized all our pictures had vanished from her profile. No wedding photos, no vacation *TS. Not even the goofy Halloween pic we took dressed as Bob and Linda Belcher. When I asked, she said it was a privacy thing. Said social media made her feel exposed and vulnerable. "I just want to live more in the moment," she'd said. I wanted to believe her. God, I really did. But that moment tonight, her voice through the door, the way her coworkers looked at me, the cold silence in her smile. It connected all the dots I tried so hard to ignore. It wasn't just paranoia anymore. It was a puzzle, and the pieces finally made sense. I rolled over and stared at the flashing blue light from the hotel alarm clock. 2:47 a.m. I felt sick. This wasn't just about a joke at a party or a new perfume. It was the accumulation of 100 quiet betrayals. 100 tiny cuts I had bandaged with trust until I couldn't anymore. I reached for my phone and opened her fitness app, something I'd helped her set up months ago on a shared device. I hadn't checked it since. She had logged workouts in 3 different cities in the past 6 weeks. Cities she'd told me she never visited. On dates she claimed she was working from home. My chest tightened. I opened the GPS history from our shared car insurance app. A few addresses came up repeatedly. None of them were gyms. One was a hotel on the north side. Another was a townhouse in Wicker Park. I copied the addresses down without knowing why. Just instinct. I stared at them for a long time, wondering how long it had really been going on. Wondering when exactly she stopped being my partner and started being a stranger with a shared address. Had it been gradual? Or was there a single moment, a choice, where she decided to check out of our marriage and not tell me? At around 4 a.m., I sat on the floor of the hotel room, back against the wall, hands shaking as I stared at the text thread between us. Her last message was a heart emoji she sent right before the party. I wondered if it was for me or just habit. I didn't respond. Instead, I typed out a question. Simple. Direct. Who's the trainer? I stared at it for a long time before deleting it. Not because I didn't want the answer, but because I already knew. The next morning, I woke up with a dry mouth and the weight of my own silence pressing on my chest. The hotel curtains were drawn tight, and for a few seconds, I forgot where I was. Then I saw the rose I'd left on the desk. Now wilting, petals curled inward like it was hiding from something, and everything came flooding back. Ashley hadn't called. No text. No missed call. No "where are you?" Not even a "good morning." I'd vanished from our shared bed, and it didn't even register. That told me more than I wanted to admit. I ordered a black coffee and plain toast from room service. Barely touched either. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't even really awake. I was just active. A body moving through the steps of a life that was beginning to feel like it belonged to someone else. I had never snooped before, never checked her emails, never looked at her messages, never gone through her stuff. Even when things started to feel off, I held on to that last shred of dignity. Telling myself trust was better than suspicion. But dignity had a cost, and I was starting to feel like a fool paying the full price. I drove home mid-morning. Ashley wasn't there. She'd left a note on the counter. Her handwriting rushed and slanted like she wrote it while walking. At the gym. Meeting with a client. Love you. Love you. 2 little words that used to mean everything, now suddenly looked like a postscript to a lie. I sat on the edge of our bed, phone in hand. I opened our shared cloud account, mostly old files, vacation photos, documents we used for taxes. She used it for work sometimes. I doubted she'd be careless enough to store anything important there, but I was desperate for clarity, for anything real. To my surprise, there was a recently emptied folder. One she had named admin_backups. I clicked it. Empty. Except it hadn't been deleted properly. I remembered that cloud kept versions of recently deleted files. I navigated to the History tab and requested a recovery. Took 5 minutes. 5 excruciating minutes that felt like peeling back the skin on a wound I wasn't sure I was ready to look at. What downloaded was a zipped archive. Over 100 files. PDFs, *TS, notes, exported chats. My stomach dropped before I even opened the first one. The folder wasn't work-related. Not even close. The first document was a series of *TS. Chats between Ashley and someone named Brett. That name meant nothing to me. At least not at first. But the conversation did. Last night was amazing. I can still smell you on me. God. I wish we didn't have to sneak around. Ryan's so clueless. I almost feel bad. Almost. I scrolled. Their conversations spanned weeks, maybe months. Long, rambling messages, sometimes during work hours, sometimes late at night when she told me she was too tired to talk. Some messages were short and rushed. Room 806 again? I'll tell him I'm working late. And others were, well, They made me feel like I was watching my marriage from the outside, like I was some extra in a story I thought I was starring in. And then I saw the receipts. A scanned image of a hotel invoice. The same hotel I'd seen in the GPS history. A suite booked under B. Wexler, corporate card, marketing agency billing address. Brett. I Googled the name. He was her boss. The off-site meetings. The team strategy dinners. The weekends she claimed were professional development retreats. They all suddenly had a face. I felt sick. Not even angry yet, just nauseated. Like every cell in my body had been rewired to reject the truth I was staring at. Then I saw it, the PDF that changed everything. A scanned request to the bank, sent from her email. A request to change the signature authorization on our joint account. She had forged my initials. Badly, too. There was a sloppiness in her fraud that felt almost insulting. Like she assumed I'd never check. Like she thought I trusted her enough not to notice if she cleaned us out. Infidelity was one thing. It tore the heart out of a relationship. But this was something else. This was theft. Betrayal with paperwork. And for what? So she could fund secret getaways with a man who had Wexler and Company stitched into his golf bag? I copied everything. Every file, every photo, every message. I put it all on a flash drive, then made a backup on an encrypted folder only I could access. I wasn't thinking clearly, but I knew enough to protect myself. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I didn't want a screaming match or some tearful excuse. I wanted clarity, control. I wanted to decide what happened next. Not be dragged along. Not be gaslit into forgiving the unforgivable. That night she came home late, claimed she was helping a friend move. Her hair was done. Fresh makeup. She smelled like the new perfume again. Something woodsy and sweet and completely foreign. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing had changed. And maybe, for her, it hadn't. We ate dinner in silence. She scrolled through her phone while I cleared the plates. She didn't ask me how my day was. She never noticed how quiet I was. Maybe she thought I was still the same guy who bought her roses and ignored red flags. But I wasn't. Not anymore. The next day, I called my friend Evan. He worked in IT. Quiet guy, sharp, never asked questions he didn't need to. Hey, I said, I need a favor. And I need you not to ask me why. He didn't hesitate. Send me what you've got. I handed him the drive later that afternoon. By the next morning, he had recovered deleted folders from Ashley's synced email. More messages. Venmo transfers labeled yoga retreat that went straight to Brett's personal account. A shared calendar she had hidden from our devices. Photos, some int asterisk mate, some casual, all damning. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there in my car, hands wrapped around the steering wheel, the morning sun warming a world that suddenly felt cold. This wasn't just a crack anymore. It was a collapse. And I was done pretending I didn't see it. I didn't confront her. Not right away. Every instinct in me, every nerve screaming for release, wanted to throw the flash drive on the table, watch her face crumble under the weight of the truth, and demand answers she didn't deserve to give. But I didn't. Instead, I breathed. I waited. And for the first time in weeks, I made a decision that wasn't reactive, it was calculated. I wasn't going to give her the chance to spin the story. I wasn't going to let her cry her way out of it, like she had with every other mistake. I wasn't going to be the angry husband. I was going to be the man she never saw coming. That Monday, I scheduled an appointment with a lawyer. Her name was Caroline Holt, recommended by a friend whose divorce had left his ex stunned and scrambling. She didn't waste time. When I showed her the flash drive, the hotel invoices, the bank documents, the messages, she skimmed through the evidence with clinical precision, nodding slowly. You've got enough here to get a favorable split, she said. More honestly, I don't care about favorable, I replied. I want out. Clean, fast, and quiet. She studied me. You're calm. I have to be. She nodded again. That's good. People make mistakes when they're angry. You'll win if you stay quiet, organized, and 2 steps ahead. I left her office with a folder in my hand and a plan forming in my mind. The next few days were quiet. at least on the surface. Ashley kept up her charade, scheduling meetings, client sessions, weekend wellness retreats, always smiling, always kissing me on the cheek when she came home smelling like a man's cologne masked with her new perfume. She didn't know I had already opened a new bank account and slowly *N transferring our savings just a few $100s at a time. Just under the radar. Just enough to avoid tripping any automatic alerts. I changed the login credentials to our joint insurance, removed her from the policy, and updated my emergency contact from her name to my brother's. I closed our shared credit cards and requested replacements in my name only. I left her old card active but with a low limit. A subtle leash. I went through the drawers in our home office while she was out and took every document that mattered: birth certificates, investment records, the deed to the house. I kept them in a new folder I stashed in my car trunk, beneath the spare tire. Meanwhile, I played the part. I smiled when she talked about her exhausting clients. I nodded when she said she needed a digital detox weekend. I made dinner, watched Netflix, let her fall asleep beside me like nothing had changed. But everything had. I had already filed the divorce paperwork. Caroline had sent the summons to the county office that Thursday morning, marked for surprise service. We picked Friday evening. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. She thought she had the double life mastered, 2 parallel worlds with no overlap. But she didn't realize how fast they were about to collide. On Thursday night, we sat on the couch. She curled up beside me, glass of wine in hand, scrolling on her phone while I pretended to care about the background noise of a show neither of us was watching. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "You've been really great lately." "I mean it." I smiled. "I think we're in a good place," she added. I stared at the screen. "We are," I said, my voice steady. She kissed my cheek and I didn't flinch. That night, while she slept soundly in our bed, I moved half my clothes into a suitcase and stored it in my trunk. I backed up my hard drives, pulled my name off shared utilities, and removed the spare keys from the hook in the kitchen. In the morning, she left early. A fitness retreat 2 towns over. She said she'd be gone until Sunday. Perfect. I called Caroline. "She'll be home by tonight?" "Guaranteed." That afternoon, I stood in our kitchen with a cup of coffee, staring out the window like it was the last time I'd ever see the backyard we painted together, the garden I watered, the old bird feeder I kept fixing even though she said we should throw it out. I felt a strange mix of sadness and peace. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just done. At 6:13 p.m., my phone buzzed. "It's done. She's been served." That was it. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. A few minutes later, the front door opened. I heard her heels click once, then stop. The silence stretched out like a held breath. "Ryan," she called. I didn't answer. She found me sitting at the dining table, sipping the last of my coffee, a manila envelope placed in front of me, untouched. She looked down at it, then back at me. "What is this?" "You already know." Her face flushed. This is a mistake. You can't be serious." "I'm not angry," I said quietly. "But I'm done." Her mouth opened and closed. Her face went pale. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Don't lie," I said. "Not now. Not when it's already over." She took a step toward me. "Ryan, please. Let's talk about this. We can fix this." I stood up. "I've already talked to a lawyer. The accounts are separated. The documents are filed. I've kept a record of everything. Every message. Every transfer." Her hands shook. "You went through my stuff?" "No," I said. "I went through ours. That was your mistake. You forgot we were still ours." She tried again, tears, promises, desperate apologies. But every word bounced off the wall I had built quietly, carefully, while she thought I was blind. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just picked up my keys and walked out the door. She called my name, but I didn't look back. Because when something breaks quietly enough, for long enough, the final snap doesn't make a sound. And that silence? It was all I needed to hear. The first text came in before I had even reached the end of the block. "Ryan, please. Just come back so we can talk." Then a second. "I don't understand. Where's this coming from?" Then a third, laced with panic. "Did someone say something to you?" I turned my phone face down on the passenger seat and kept driving. I didn't need to read them. I already knew the pattern: shock, confusion, bargaining. And beneath it all, fear, not of losing me but of losing control. Ashley was a master at staying ahead of things. She was the type who handled other people's chaos for a living: crisis strategy, client cleanups, PR polish. But now the mess was hers and no one was coming to clean it up. By the time I reached Evan's apartment, where he had offered me his spare room, the calls had started. I ignored each one, watching the number light up over and over again like it could wear me down. It didn't. I left the phone on the table and sat down on the couch, staring blankly at the muted TV screen. Evan came in with 2 beers, handed me one, and didn't ask a single question. He just sat beside me and let the silence breathe. "Thanks," I said finally. He nodded. "You're doing the right thing." I wasn't sure if it was the right thing, but it was the only thing. The next day, Ashley showed up at my office. I saw her through the glass as she approached, her usual confidence replaced with frantic energy. She looked tired. Her eyes were puffy. Hair unbrushed. She had thrown on a hoodie over what I guessed were yesterday's clothes. It was the first time in years I'd seen her without her armor. She pushed through the lobby doors like someone racing against time. "Ryan," she said, breathless, "can we please talk?" 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. My assistant looked up at me, unsure what to do. "It's fine," I said. I stood, opened the conference room door, and gestured inside. She followed quickly, clutching her phone like it was a life preserver. "I'm sorry," she began before the door even closed. "I didn't know you were this unhappy. If you just told me." "I'm not here to listen to a revision," I cut in calmly. "I know what happened." She froze. "What do you mean?" I slid a small folder across the table. She opened it and stared down at the printouts, emails, hotel receipts, the signature form from the bank. Her hand trembled. "I don't," she started. "Don't insult me," I said. "You don't have to explain. It's all there." She sat down, visibly deflating. Her voice dropped. "It didn't mean anything. It was stupid, it was reckless, but it wasn't worth this." "Didn't mean anything?" I repeated, not out of anger, just disbelief. "You altered our account. You forged my name." She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I said. "But I won't let you hurt me anymore either." Tears welled in her eyes. "I made a mistake." "No," I said. "You made a decision." Over and over again. We sat there for a long moment. Just 2 people who used to share a life, staring across a table like strangers. "Can we go to counseling?" she asked, her voice small. "Just once. Try to talk this through." I shook my head. "I spent the last year trying to talk. You weren't listening." "Please," she whispered. "You didn't panic when you lied. You didn't panic when you erased our photos or forged my signature. You only panicked when you lost control." I stood. "This isn't revenge. It's clarity." She sobbed as I walked away, but I didn't look back. I didn't flinch. Her panic had come too late. That week, the silence between us became a wall. She called. Left voicemails. Some were long and desperate, some just her crying softly on the line. A few messages veered into anger, blaming me for invading her privacy, for handling things coldly. But I didn't respond. Not once. Instead, I forwarded everything to Caroline. She added them to the case file. Ashley began trying other ways to reach me. She emailed from a new address. Showed up at the gym I used to go to. Even called my mother. "She just wants to talk," my mom said gently. "Are you sure you don't want to hear her out?" "I've already heard everything I need to," I said. "You sound distant." "I have to be." Ashley's final move came a week later when she showed up outside Evan's building. I saw her through the blinds, sitting on the curb, her hoodie pulled over her head, staring at the door like she didn't know what she'd say if I opened it. I didn't. I waited 30 minutes until she finally stood, wiped her face, and walked away. She hadn't even noticed the security camera over the doorway. 2 days later, her attorney contacted mine. She wanted to negotiate. Wanted to avoid court. Too late. Caroline advised me to stay the course, and I did. We filed a formal complaint citing financial misrepresentation and emotional misconduct. We subpoenaed credit card records, pulled backup logs from cloud storage, and requested a full account audit. Ashley had underestimated how much I had prepared. She thought I'd react with emotion. But I'd moved past emotion. This wasn't about punishing her. It was about protecting what was left of me. The day she officially moved out, I was already gone. I didn't want to see her pack. Didn't want to watch her sift through the life we built, trying to decide which pieces were worth salvaging. I returned late that night. The house was quiet. Hollow, but peaceful in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. On the counter, she'd left a note. "I'm sorry. For all of it. I hope someday you find peace." "I hope I do too." I stared at it for a long time before folding it in half and sliding it into a drawer. I didn't hate her. I just didn't trust her. And in the end, that was enough. I moved out on a Wednesday morning. The sky was overcast, the kind of dull gray that made the city feel quieter than usual. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't leave a note. I just packed the essentials, clothes, documents, camera gear, and left behind everything that didn't feel like mine anymore. A friend had offered me a short-term lease on his apartment in Logan Square, and the moment I walked in, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: stillness. No perfume in the air. No sound of a second toothbrush clinking in the cup. No pretending. Just peace. I muted Ashley's number. I didn't block her. Blocking felt angry, and I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. Her texts still came, at first daily, then weekly, then less. But I never read past the previews. In the silence of that little apartment, I started to rebuild. I ran every morning, something I'd put off for years. Joined a local running group. Bought a cheap espresso machine. Picked up my old camera and walked the streets shooting black and white portraits of strangers and empty benches. I called friends I hadn't spoken to in months, some in years, and told them the truth. Most weren't surprised. One of them just said, "Took you long enough." I never looked back. There were moments it hit me: when I passed a certain bakery we used to love, or when I found a playlist she once made on my phone. But I let those moments pass through me. I didn't cling to them. I didn't chase closure. I didn't want it from her. I gave it to myself. One day, I logged into our old photo album. I didn't do it to torture myself. I just wanted to remember who we used to be before it all went wrong. I looked at the pictures: our early days, road trips, holidays. There was love in those photos. Real love. But there was also a moment, somewhere in the middle, where her smile stopped reaching her eyes. I closed the album,